Hey everyone. So today is going to be my long-awaited game day analysis for 2024 USA Powerlifting New York State Championships. So this is, the second part of my game day analysis series. You know, last time I went over bench nationals for, both my victory in 2022 and, my top two Pro Series once clinching performance in 2023. I know a lot of you are looking more forward to this one because it's a full power meet. And full power is definitely a lot more interesting than bench only, but there were some important concepts that I went over, some basic concepts for game day coaching that I went over in the previous video, such as lot numbers and attempt changes and things like that. So if you haven't seen that video already, I'd encourage you to do that before coming back here because there are a lot of concepts that again I went over in the last video and I don't want to explain again in this one because this is going to be a long video and I don't want to make it longer than it has to. So anyway, this meet was part of the prime time session for the 2024 USAPL New York State Championships, which was definitely an exciting experience for me. The top two dots from each weight class got invited into the primetime session. And the top five men and the top five women for dots, got cash prizes. So certainly, there were some women from, squat and science. Got to give a shout out to Hannah Jenny and Evie Jerome for their top five dots performances. They each got to walk away with some giant oversized checks as a result of their performances. But my meet was a very different kind. Um, I didn't really like have much of a chance of getting that top five dots realistically, but it was a really tight head-to-head showdown in my weight class with Jonathan Chan. And as we'll go over a little bit later, focusing on that head-to-head matchup definitely like it required a very different approach to attempt selection. So I'll first go over scouting. And I know I didn't really do much scouting in the previous video. My opponents didn't really like have a ton of stuff posted, so there wasn't really much to go over. But plus, it's just one lift. Whereas again with full power, like there are definitely more lifts to account for, more attempts, more map. So I'll go ahead and share my screen. Go ahead. So I'm gonna pull up USAPL lifting database. So again, we had this showdown between myself and Jonathan Chan. Um, so his best total leading up into this meet was 545 kilos. And my best total, again, my most recent meet was 520, which I did at Northeast Regionals in July. My all-time PR total was 527 and a half. So it's a pretty substantial, 17 and a half to 25 pound, 25 kilo advantage in total. So I would, even though the social media post listed me as the fan favorite, I was definitely a pretty big underdog going into this meet. So, certainly a lot of people see like that kind of a gap in nominations and be intimidated. But there were definitely some things that made me believe that I had a chance, even though on paper my chances were pretty small. So if you just look at the results of each of his competitions, like the first thing you'll notice is a sea of red, like a lot of missed attempts. And, you know, certainly when you're in a head-to-head matchup, especially one that's really tight, sometimes it really can come down to who makes more attempts. And so looking at, the lifter's attempt selection and how often they make or miss lifts is very important. So as you can see here, his very first meet, he bombed out. He only got his squat and bench openers and didn't even complete a successful deadlift. Second meet was a little bit better. He did miss his opener on bench press, but went up and got it. But, didn't miss any other lifts the rest of the way, so an 8 for 9 meet. And then, his last and most recent meet, leading up to states, was a 6 for 9 day. He did still PR'd his total, but he missed all of his third attempts. So, that's definitely a sign that, of like inconsistent attempt selection, just on surface value. Now, the other thing you want to pay attention to when scouting, a lifter's meet results is their body weight, because in the end, weight cutting can definitely be a very important factor in attempt selection. If you cut a lot of weight, that throws another big variable and can make it hard to judge how much you have in a tank. So, his first meet, which he did as a 60, he was 59.95, so really close to that weight limit, just 0.05 kilos under, less than a tenth of a kilo under. So he was really close. Made weight, at the heavier weight class a little bit more comfortably on his second meet at 66.7, well under 67.5. But then, that last meet, again, 67.4, so, 0.1 under. And so, and he's really close to that weight limit. And, if someone's like really close or even like exactly on weight, it's probably not because they have perfect macros and can maintain their exact weight. They're probably cutting pretty hard. Whereas for me, you notice I'm really light, and more than a kilo under at most of these meets. So, if you see someone weighing ridiculously light, they're probably just walking around at their natural weight, just competing, weighing in what they weigh. I mean, if you're cutting weight, you should never be more than a kilo under. Like if you're cutting and you're overshooting by that much, like you should fire whoever's doing your cut, or definitely change your approach, because you never want to be, cutting more than you need to. So, obviously, weight's a big factor in attempt selection. And then another is injuries. So, again, with John, I didn't have very many videos of top singles, but, this video from his prep, it's pretty telling. So you can see he's doing a lot of safety bar squat. He has this brace on his arm, benching with the brace on his arm, and then deadlifting with the brace on his arm. So yeah, after that last meet, like he tore his bicep and like had surgery on it. And as you can see, like this post, first time benching, deadlifting, 23 days post op. And this was on January 7th, so probably around the 10 weeks out mark. So, he basically wasn't training 2 out of his 3 lifts up until like fairly close to the meet. And certainly have a lot of respect for him for coming back so quickly, like after a major injury like that. But your inability to train the lifts definitely affect your attempt selection a lot. Like it's been a while since if it's been a while since you've really like pushed that top end, you might not have as great of an idea of what your top end is. All right, so enough of the scouting. Now I'll go ahead into the meet itself. So I pulled up this Excel chart just because, again, with a full power meet, you're doing a lot of math, because there are a lot more numbers you have to crunch versus just a bench only meet. So And I put in the nominations just for reference, and had a 25 kilo advantage based on their most recent meet performance. Body weight, I weighed in 63.75. He weighed in at 66.7. So I had the body weight advantage. So again, if you're lighter and you finish with the exact same total, then the winner is the one with the lighter weight, lighter body weight. So that, as you can see, will come into play a little bit later. Also made a note of the lot number. I had a lower lot number, 410 versus 421, so we did have lot number advantage. And then we submitted our openers at weigh-ins. So my squat was 160, his was 192.5. My bench was 130, his was 105. My deadlift was 205, his was 207. So now I did put in the forecasted totals after each attempt. So based on if we just hit our openers, I would have finished, I was forecasted at 495. He's forecasted at 505. So right from the beginning, he has a 10 kilo advantage. So we hit our openers. I put in 167.5. He puts in 202. That gives us forecasted 502.5 versus 515. So takes a little bit of a bigger jump on squat. So that actually, grows the advantage a little bit, 12.5 versus just 10. Kind of knew he was going to take a bigger jump. Squat is like his biggest advantage, as you can see, like the gap between, his squat and my squat, versus like the other lifts. So like I knew going in that, squat was going to be his main advantage. So I put in 175, he puts in 210. I miss 175, which, certainly, if he made his, would have put me in a really big hole. But if I, reverse this, and then, change this to that would have been a 20 kilo swing. But the good news is he missed his third squat too. So not forecasted totals after third squats remains the same. So it's definitely very important because it kept me in it. I think certainly a 20 kilo lead would have been too hard to make up. So anyway, we go to bench. I hit 130. He hits 105. And then I put in a 7.5 kilo jump, 137. He takes an even bigger jump, 10 kilos, so 115. We both hit our second. So again, he starts to pull away a little bit more, 510 to 525. It's a 15 kilo advantage. And then going into our thirds, I was pretty conservative. My original game plan was to go from 137.5 to 142.5 for a 2.5 kilo PR. I probably would have done that if I made all three of my squats, but I kind of knew because of the situation and I didn't love how my first two attempts moved, that I knew I couldn't afford to miss another one. So that's why I went 140. Obviously moved really well. The commentators even said, dare I say 145. I wasn't planning on going that high, even in the best case scenario, but it was definitely, a really easy third attempt. Jonathan went up another 10 kilos to 125 and missed his. So that allowed me to close the gap a little bit, 512 to 525. So after, third deadlift, third bench, it's a 12.5 kilo advantage. So we go into deadlifts, make our openers, and then we each take 10 kilo jumps. So I put in 215. He puts in 217.5. And after I make my second deadlift, that's where things start to get interesting. if you were following Lifting Cast live during our meet, you knew that I originally put in 222.5 for my third. And the reason for reasoning behind that, yeah, Kevin Candu, who is submitting my attempts for this meet, told me after that second deadlift, like, oh, if he makes 217.5, like, he's gonna put this at reach. So if pulling for the wins was out of the cards, yeah, I was just gonna, go for what I needed for a PR total and a PR deadlift. 222.5 would have given me both of those. But, the one thing I said before I let Kando go to the table was to have another attempt card ready, I think this is it, which, as it turned out, he did. So that puts our totals at 522.5 versus 525. So now, after being behind by double digits pretty much the entire meet, now I'm only down 2.5. And again, going back to this body weight advantage, I have a body weight advantage. So all I need to do to win is to tie. So I go down to 217.5 to close that 2.5 kilo gap. And then, he repeats his weight for his third. So a couple of other things, regarding that third attempt. And because I didn't have that lot number advantage, if you put in the same weight, I was going to go before. So, yeah, I could have put in more, but, again, if I don't have that lot number advantage, and he post 217.5, I would have been stuck with 220 or whatever higher number I put it, because I can't go down to 217.5. The other thing, I wasn't really in a position to make him change his decision making. Like, it would have been one thing if I could have put a number on the bar that would have forced him to go up. Because he already attempted 217, that's the lightest weight he can attempt. He can't go down. So, I was either, just going to put on whatever I needed to tie or put on a number that would have forced him to go up. And, again, I wasn't really in a situation to do that. So, because of that, like, I didn't really consider a higher number. And also, like, I didn't really want to get too cute with timing in terms of, like, waiting until, like, he goes. Because, again, one, I don't have lot number advantage, and two, because I'm playing from behind, again, I'm not really in a position to, make him go up from this. So anyway, 217.5 is loaded. I hit it. And then he comes a lot closer on his third to locking me out than he did on his second. But, again, even to the point where, Kevin actually thought that I lost, but, he didn't get a down command. He dropped it before the down command. So obviously that's 3 reds. He misses. We both finished with 525. I tie, we tie. I win on body weight. So, it was my first time pulling for the win. Certainly, to be able to pull for the win, especially against a very highly favored opponent, it definitely felt satisfying. I mean, were there things I could have done differently? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, missing that third squat really put me in a hole. I think if I made my third squat, I probably could have been more aggressive on that third bench and had a little more wiggle room to, like, be a little bit more aggressive on that third deadlift, even without lot number advantage. Like, if I had the lead going into that last deadlift, like, that probably would have opened more options. As far as, like, trying to put on a heavier number, try to see if I could make him go up from a miss. But overall, it was a pretty satisfying win. And it's certainly another big lesson to be learned is when you are going up against a heavily favored opponent, like again, you can't always assume best case scenarios. Again, you don't know what's going to happen until you step on the platform. People might miss lifts. And as you can see, Jonathan missed a lot of lifts, and that opened the door for me to pull off the upset. The other important thing, like, when you're going up against a highly favored opponent is you can't go around chasing your opponent's numbers and, overshooting. That's not how you put pressure on an opponent. Um, you know, you put pressure on opponent by making your list. So again, one of the keys to my success, aside from that missed squat, like, I didn't miss any attempts. And so, going 8 for 9 or 9 for 9, that's definitely a huge difference versus going, 5 for 9 or, something like that. So, I hope this has been helpful. And it was definitely a very rewarding experience, pulling for the win in like from behind fashion on prime time. And I think there is something to be said about competing and competing against opponents that are heavily favored, that are really strong, and coming through on top. And it's definitely something that's a very different experience from just maxing out and comparing numbers. So again, hope this is helpful. I hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, peace.